Hi guys. So I wanted to do a few examples with you for this activity, just so you had a better idea of what you were doing. So for the first part, you're going to be given X's that look like this, where you are given the values on the sides of the X's, and you have to fill in the top and bottom of the X's. Now notice that there are symbols, operation symbols here and here. And what those are telling us that we have to do is to multiply these two values to get the top number and add those two values to get the bottom number. So positive 5 times positive 3 gives us a positive 15. And positive 5 plus positive 3 gives us a positive 8. So for the first part of the activity, you're just multiplying those two values and adding the two values to get the top and bottom values. So for the next one, negative 6 times negative 4, a negative times a negative is a positive 24. A negative 6 plus a negative 4 is going to give us a negative 10. Now be really careful with adding and subtracting these integers, because I know some people have a tendency to get hung up on that, so be really careful. Positive 7 times positive 9 is going to give us 63, but that's going to be a negative 63. I think I said positive 9, I meant negative 9. So positive 7 times negative 9 is a negative 63. And then 7 plus negative 9 or 7 minus 9 is going to give us a negative 2. So part one of this activity is pretty straightforward. You're multiplying your two digits to get the top number, and you're adding the two digits to get the bottom number. So let's take a look at the second part of your activity. For the second part of your activity, you're now given the opposite. You're given the top and bottom numbers, and you have to find the two numbers that multiply to give you the top number, but they have to add to give you the bottom number. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Now you'll notice that on part 2, I included T-charts. And what you have to do on your paper and upload to the activity for your T-charts is to list all of the factors of this top number. Now remember, factors are numbers that you multiply together. So what we're going to do here, for 48 is we're going to list all of the factors of 48. Now, yes, you do have to do this, and you do have to list all of them. So the factors of 48, you start with 1. 1 times 48 gives us 48. 2 times 24. Now remember to check for 3s. You add your digits. 4 plus 8 is 12. And 12 is divisible by 3, therefore 48 is divisible by 3. And that's 3 and 16. 4 and 12. 5 does not work. 6 and 8. 7 does not work. 8 is already listed, therefore this is all of our factor pairs. Okay, so you do have to do this for all of your values, all of your top values for the second part of this activity. Now, you can either use a calculator or a multiplication chart. If you don't feel very comfortable with your math facts, that's absolutely fine, but you do have to list all of these values. So all of these values multiply to give us 48, but what we're looking for specifically is the combination that gives us 16 when we add them together. So 1 and 48 is not going to give us 16. 2 and 24 is not going to give us 16. 3 and 16 will not give us 16, but 4 and 12 will give us 16. So we're going to test it. They're both going to be positive, so positive 4 and positive 12. Positive 4 times positive 12 gives us positive 48, and positive 4 plus positive 12 does give us positive 16. So that is the combination we're looking for. All right, let's look at another one. So the next one is 96. Let's list our T-chart for 96. That's 1 times 96. 2 times 48. 3 times 32, 4 times 24, 5 doesn't work, 6 times 16, 7 doesn't work, 8 times, is that 12? 9 doesn't work, 10 doesn't work, 11 doesn't work, and then we're back to 12. So these are our options. Now we're looking for the combination that gives us negative 20. Somehow negative 20. So 1 and 96, no way. 2 and 48 aren't going to work. 32 plus 3 is 35. 32 minus 3 is 29, so that's not going to work. 24 plus 4 is 28. 24 minus 4 gives us 20. So this is an option. 6 and 16 is 22. 16 minus 6 is 10, so that's not an option. 8 plus 12 is 20. 12 minus 8, so this is also an option. So you have to be careful because sometimes your factors will have multiple options. Now, some of you are going to be really comfortable and you'll be able to find it right away, but I do want you practicing this T-chart on the off chance that you get stuck and you can't quite figure out what the combination is. So we're practicing this T-chart for all of part 2 today. So if we're multiplying to get a positive number, that means that our signs have to be the same. It's a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative, because that's the only way you get a positive when you multiply. But if we are adding to get a negative number, that means that we are adding two negative numbers. So 4 plus 24 gives us 28. That's not going to work in this particular case because that gives you 28, not 20. So our factor pair here is going to be a negative 8 and a negative 12. So negative 8 times negative 12 gives us positive 96, and a negative 8 plus negative 12 gives us a negative 20. All right, last example here. We have negative 24 and positive 5. So list your factor pairs for 24 using your T-chart. So we have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 5 doesn't work, and brings us back to 6, which we already listed. Therefore, these are our options. So we're looking for a combination that's going to give us 5. 1 and 24 is out. 2 and 12 is out. 3 and 8 is an option. And 4 and 6 is out. Now you want to consider all of them because as you saw in the previous one, there could be 2 possibilities, so be careful. So we're looking for a combination that gives us a negative 24, which means one of the numbers has to be negative. So one positive number, one negative number is the only way you're going to get a negative when you multiply. And then we're adding the 2 numbers to get a positive number. So if we're adding the 2 numbers to get a positive, that means the larger number has to be positive. So that's going to be 8 and 3. Now, just real quick, guys, if it was negative 24 and negative 5, that means we're adding the 2 numbers to get a negative. Therefore, in that case, the bigger number must be negative, and that would be negative 8 and positive 3. So that is what you're doing in part 2. Make sure you do your T-chart for all of part 2.